Welcome to Cyber Monday. Joining me as always is my entertaining co-host, Mr. Dominic Vogel. Dominic, who's in the hot seat today?
I'm wondering if you're ever going to run out of adjectives to describe me. But yeah, so today we have Hussein Hallak. He is the founder of Vest in Canada, as well as the VP of Strategy at 3-Tier Logic. And my goodness, he is one of the most engaging, just awesome individuals I think that we've ever come across in Vancouver.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in my seat. I'm going to invite Hussein in, and we will be right back.
Hussein, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, and I know it's a really cool day as well. So thank you for huddling with us in the studio today. We're really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, really awesome to have you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
So you have a couple of things that you're involved in now. You're a man of many talents and fingers in many pies.
I don't know about talent. I'm involved in a lot of things, but it depends who you ask.
So the first one that we have recently come to discover is Vest in Canada. Tell us all about what that is and what your involvement is in that.
Yeah, I think from my journey in Vancouver and visiting a couple of places in Canada, I came to find more and more that Canada has so much more than the natural resources. I think at least our biggest resource is the people of Canada, and there's so many entrepreneurs everywhere. And I think the ecosystem is not doing enough to support those entrepreneurs. It's a personal view, but every time I meet with an entrepreneur, they need more. They need all the help that they can get. So I think to help them do that, Vest in Canada aims to connect entrepreneurs with investors, with the people important and all the programs that are offered across the country to help them take their idea from just an idea to a successful company that serves the community, serves their customers. So that's the biggest aim, the idea, and hopefully we'll be successful at it. It requires a lot of collaboration, a lot of bringing together. It is a project. Kind of like a startup, not a nonprofit. So I'm still not sure how it's going to look. But I know the purpose behind it is very important. So willing to do the work, and I have a bunch of the team is awesome. The people that are involved, everybody wants to help. So we've done a few things that are successful. We started with events that brings together investors. We call them funders and founders. And it's an event. The unique thing about it is that there's nobody speaking. There's no even somebody doing a welcome address. You come in, there's great food. We're doing it with CBRE in their amazing office in Vancouver. You come, you enjoy a switch off time, 2 hours, where you network with people kind of like-minded.
Yes.
It's become like a refuge for people from the usual networking events, from the usual events that you're like the target where everybody wants to talk to you.
Right.
Here they can switch off and have great conversation. And the aim is to bring the community together. So the Vest in Canada is kind of to represent that on a country scale, on a national scale.
Hopefully we get an invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. I did.
Invite me the first one. I think we weren't able to make it.
Yeah. So you guys are not. You talk about busy.
So is this nationwide then?
Yeah, the aim is
just
nationwide.
City centers, or is it
Each
remote
city,
as well?
each place can have what we call a champion and a curator. So the aim is on the website, we curate all the programs, the startups, the people, the investors of a certain place, because we recognize you can't just Google these stuff. A lot of stuff happen on the ground that only people who are on the ground know it.
Yeah.
I know that from my experience being part of the community and meeting a lot of wonderful people that people didn't know they exist and helping the community. So we want city champions to kind of and city curators to inform people about that information, and the website will be the platform for that. And in addition to that, those city champions are the target when somebody wants to go to a city, like a lot of foreign investors, a lot of people, newcomers to the ecosystem, want somebody to guide them and help them. There's a lot of people willing to do that. So that's what's going to happen in every city. So we grow as people raise their hand and say, I'll do that. And that's how we plan to grow.
That's really interesting. Well, the whole notion about ecosystems, and ecosystems need to be organic in order to survive and thrive.
Yeah.
What are some of the regional differences within Canada? Like, how is some of the sort of that community within Vancouver different than Toronto compared to Atlantic Canada or to the prairies? Like, do they have different regionalities to them or different nuances? Well,
it depends on a combination of things. For an ecosystem, roughly you need government, because they're like they have probably the biggest access to resources. You need big companies to be part of that. You need the startups to play a role, and you need what we call community leaders, people who are willing to dedicate themselves for a long period of time, and willing to help bring these things together. In different areas, for example, if you look at Toronto, there's a ton of money that gets spent there compared to what is spent, let's say, in BC or Alberta. The focus of what they focus on, for example, you see the challenges, for example, government is driven by what we call the political life cycle. So it's basically a politician would say, what is the biggest things that I can show so I can get elected again? So these don't always align with what is needed in the community. Big companies are interested in talent and selling products and stuff like that, which is fine. And startups are interested in, hey, where can we find resources so that we can grow and we can build? Investors are interested in finding those startups. So everyone has their own interests. So you need those things to come together. And in every region, every province, every city even, those interests are different. And the area of focus is different. For example, Alberta is now focused a lot on artificial intelligence. BC now it's more digital, creative approach. There's a big swell of blockchain, for example. So there's these kind of subtle differences and sometimes major differences. And obviously they're run politically different. So all of these elements come to play. So that creates sometimes big differences or subtle differences that you can only realize when you're on the ground. So I had my own what I understood about, let's say, Calgary and Edmonton. And when I went there and talked to the people, it was different. And that's when it struck me that you need that participation on a ground level from people so that you can account for those differences.
And I know you were hitting on that earlier in terms of, like, if you're a startup or an entrepreneur, like, do you need to be in an urban center in order to succeed? Or can you be successful, or at least grow something in some of the countless smaller communities throughout the country? It
is harder when you're in rural areas. You have less access to talent, mentors, support. You have less access to outside. It becomes harder. In Vancouver, you kind of don't see it because it's an urban center. There's a concentration. You go, let's say, to Gastown or Yaletown, and you run into everyone you run into is working on a startup per se. You go even outside of that center in Vancouver, you don't have as much access. So imagine what happens. Like I was recently in Fort McMurray, and there's entrepreneurship there, entrepreneurs who want access, but there's no entrepreneurs to mentor them. So that's one of the reasons why I want to connect it on let's say, using a website or a platform where somebody who say, I'm willing to mentor someone who's, let's say, in a rural area. I'm willing to give them my time and energy. So we want to make that platform available. How? We're still working on it, honestly. But we know that's important to be done. So
really interesting.
The how we'll figure it out.
And when I hear you say you're helping newcomers and looking to mentor people, you're working with the community and government and businesses, I can't help but think to ask what led you to this point. Like, what is your story as a newcomer? How did you get here?
Well, when I landed in Vancouver, one of the things that struck me is, number one, it's extremely hard. That was like 6 years ago. It's extremely hard for newcomers. Vancouver is very welcoming, but there are things that come in the way. For example, if you're looking for a job, the simplest thing, a lot of times the path that you take, the usual path by applying for jobs, I applied, I think, for 200 roles. And I had one lousy interview. Now, that may be because of my set of experiences. That may be as well because recruiters, with dealing with a lot of applications, they have to take what I call the checkbox approach, which is like, do you check a box or not? So I didn't get that. So in the way I did it is I started networking with people. And I started networking without asking for a job. I just wanted to meet people. I said, okay, if I'm not getting a job, I might as well meet people until I run out of money, which was not a big time. But I ended up meeting like hundreds of people, doing hundreds of coffees. I didn't know anyone, and by 3 months, I knew 6,000 people in Vancouver over LinkedIn. That's amazing. And I ended up with 5 job offers from people who knew me and saw, hey, you can actually help our company. I ended up working at 3-Tier Logic, which is the first role that I got. But having gone through that journey, that's one striking thing that hit me, is that it's so hard, even for me, which I thought of myself highly as someone I have multiple talents, which works because I'm overqualified. It's the first time ever that I ran. It's like, what do you mean overqualified? It means you pay me little and you get more. Like that's a deal
It's
for
a good
me.
deal.
Yeah. So, and that's the journey of a lot of people who are coming to work. But the other thing is, I came to realize I had a social media company and it was quite successful in Dubai.
Yeah.
And I knew Hootsuite and I knew Ryan Holmes, but I had no idea they were from Vancouver or Canadian.
Interesting.
So I was here after 6 months. I'm reading, oh, Hootsuite is recruiting. Oh, Hootsuite have an office in Vancouver. Damn, they're like a Vancouver company, and I had no idea.
Head office.
and which kind of like anecdote to in Canada, we have all these success stories. We have all these amazing entrepreneurs, and we suck at telling the world about it.
It's true.
We don't tell the world.
Yeah,
So that's, I think, a big aspect of, and still till date, a lot of people think a lot of the successful Canadian companies are Silicon Valley companies. So that hurts Canada's image and the image of innovation for investors who want to invest, for newcomers. They don't look for tech. I mean, even people in Vancouver, it's like, is tech big in Vancouver? Yeah, it's huge. So these are the things that I think we need to work on. So these are things that drove that. And the other thing from the community, a lot of people want to help. It's hard to access them. If you go networking right now, you go to an event, you find people who want to network, not the people you want to network with.
Yeah.
Like account managers with business cards trying to
yeah,
collect as many
and nothing
business
bad
cards as they
about
can.
that. But the thing is, if you're in Vancouver, you're hard at work.
Yeah.
And when you stop working, you go outside,
Yeah.
trekking, whatever, all the stuff that I don't like doing. I hate exercise. so that's what you do. So we won't find you in networking events.
Right.
So how do you create that kind of environment to bring people together? Because once they meet each other, they're very helpful. They want to help you. So I wanted to change that, and I noticed the change, and I've spoke to a lot of people, and they're willing to help. So I said, there are people who are willing to help. I see where the problems are. I'm an entrepreneur. Let's bring that together. So as always, found myself stuck with an idea that I couldn't sleep, and I had to make it happen.
That's awesome. Maybe just changing gears ever so slightly.
Sure.
You mentioned through tier logic there. Love to learn a little bit more about what it is that company does, and again, very much based on your narrative, where you started and where you are now in relationship with them.
For some reason, you're back.
Yeah, for some reason. So 3-tier logic, they build software to run loyalty programs for some of the largest brands and the most known brands in the world, like the Procter and Gamble, the Unilever, the Universal. Like these are run by an amazing team, and at the time CEO Rob Craig. And we met over coffee, and the first time we sat down, he said, "Let me tell you." One of the things I love about him is that he's very direct. So we sat down for coffee. He said, "Let me tell you why I'm meeting you. I want to hire you." It's like, okay. This was like my first time in Vancouver. Like, okay, I'm in. But we ended up talking actually about his family and about why he loves Vancouver, why I love Vancouver. And we had a great chat. And he gave me, actually, it was a funny story. He said, "I'll hire you. We're going public in a few months. But I have my brother who has an agency, and you're going to be competing with him. In 3 months, I have to decide whether it's you or him that's going to be in this role for marketing." It's like, okay, someone with an agency, and here's me starting in Vancouver. I'm definitely going to win because I'm definitely more hungry than that person.
That's right. Yeah.
So no, his brother is awesome. I ended up meeting him, but the thing is, I ended up being selected for the role, started as a junior marketer. But quickly, the one thing also that I liked is that he's very open to change. I saw things coming from the lean startup mentality. Yeah. I said, we can do this. And I locked him and his co-founder in a room. And I said, listen, these are the things that I think we need to change about the company. Yeah. And instead of saying, you're just a junior marketer, do your role, he said, this is awesome. Let's meet more. Let's do that. Awesome. So I ended up working in the company, moving very rapidly to products and doing more to help the company. Left in 2 years because as any startup, ups and downs.
Yep.
And Launch Academy offered me a role to be GM, even though it's not for an increase in salary, but I loved the possibility. So we moved there, and we kept in touch. Me and Rob. He's the first one who introduced me to sushi in Vancouver, so I couldn't forget that. So ended up touching base, and recently we worked on a project, and we went down to LA, pitched a big studio there, and we won the contract. So he asked me, he said, listen, I really love working together, and I really kind of touched base with how open he is and direct and great to work together. I said, yeah, let's try it again. And even though I have, I said, listen, I come with my baggage, which is I have my startups, I'm doing Vestin, I have these connections with the community, I'm always meeting people. I said, yeah, I understand that, I love that about you, let's do it. So that was the perfect thing. So it's a great environment. I still can be entrepreneurial, influence change. So I'm VP of product strategy there.
That's an incredible narrative.
That's really awesome. So you mentioned Launch Academy. Tell us what happened there.
Launch Academy is probably the most magical place in Vancouver,
It's
if not in Canada.
Disneyland North.
Yeah, at least for me. So I landed in Vancouver again, searching for a job, and then I went for a workshop there, and it was run by Rocket Builders, Dave Thomas. Who's very influential here in helping a lot of entrepreneurs, an investor and someone who's a teacher as well. I didn't know who he is. I just saw the workshop, went and attended. And in that workshop, Colin, who's the head of predictable revenue right now, was there, and he had predictable revenue book. He didn't write, someone called Aaron, I can't remember his last name, damn it. So he wrote that book. And he's like, he offered, I don't know, he asked a question. I'm always like raising my hand. And I ended up winning that book. Asked him, me being a networker, was like, let's have coffee. Had coffee, we're talking, and I told him how much I love tech. He said, you know Launch Academy? I said, no. So he said, let me take you on a tour. He was just a starting entrepreneur at Launch Academy. Now, predictable revenue is a massive force in the ecosystem. So he's there. He takes me on a tour. I said, I love this place. What does it take to be a member? And the time it's Alex Chung, who's one of the founders. I said, what does it take? He said, well, you have to have a startup. Next day I come in, I have a startup. 2 years after, by the way, I was telling the story to someone. He's like, so you didn't have a startup? He didn't know. He thought I did have a startup. I was like, I invented the startup. I'll do anything to go in. So I lied my way in, basically. So I ended up being a member. I loved it. This was my first interaction with people who would give of their time. So I heard about mentorship. I always read books, but I didn't have a mentor in Dubai or Syria. We don't have that concept. Successful people are hard to reach. There I had successful people in Launch Academy who would give up their time to mentor me on my lowly startup idea that I invented. So, and the CEO of later, Roger Patterson, I keep getting that wrong. So he was one of my mentors. Ian McKenna as well, who's also the CTO of Later. He at the time they didn't have Later, but he was one of the mentors, and I was blown away by that. So I came to Alex and said, "How can I help?"
Yeah, so cool.
Funny story. One of the co-founders of CryptoKitties was the MC on the first pitch that I did in Launch Academy. This is the community. It's awesome.
Everything's interconnected.
Exactly. So I said, what can I do? He said, well, you're good at marketing. You have that history. Can you mentor people? I said, yes. So I started mentoring. Then they asked me to lead their education program. And I was kind of always there. All the time, helping as much as I can. And then they offered me hey, we want you to be a GM. And it was right. I didn't know at all. I had no idea. I even wrote an article how surprised I was. And I said, yes, for sure. Because I'm already always there. I would do that for free. Obviously, I didn't tell them that.
Inside voice.
Exactly, inside voice. I'll do this for free. So where else would you? I was GM. I did marketing. I did awesome team, small team, doing all the work that is there. We're 3-4 people, all dedicated. And I'm working with entrepreneurs all the time. It's like Disneyland for me.
That's amazing.
So some of the most amazing entrepreneurs I had to meet there. And you had Ray, who's the CEO. He has his ventures and stuff to do, but he's always there. And one of the biggest things I tell about that story is we had the culture there, is that I'd be in a meeting and we'd be somebody somebody would say on Slack, say, hey, the toilet is clogged. And you'd see Ray coming out of his office, go unclog the toilet and come back.
Yeah.
Where else would you find that?
Wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of culture where everybody's hands-on,
Yeah.
everybody's there to help,
Yeah.
everybody's open. That kind of set me up to that mentality, and I was always meeting people, whether they're members of Launch Academy, whether they just landed in Vancouver or anything, and that set me up to meeting tons of people and seeing how the potential of Vancouver
Yeah.
and what's needed to be done. So that's Launch Academy for you.
Have you ever thought about writing a biography? Or an
So, so captivating. Yeah.
I am writing a few books right
Yeah.
now, as if I needed more things to do.
I'm not surprised.
But I honestly, one of the biggest thing is how can I help people rather than telling my story. I do tell it many times, and I think it's a lot. I meet a lot of people. Maybe it's me not seeing that I had much to add, but a lot of people have wonderful stories as well. So yeah, I'm writing a little bit about that. Hopefully, it helps someone.
Yeah.
Sprinkle that into
Yeah,
the book.
exactly. Yeah, love to talk about myself, as is obvious.
That sounds good to me.
One more topic which I'd love to hit on just quickly before we wrap things up is on blockchain. We know you're a huge blockchain advocate for businesses, and that's one of the most important emerging technologies out there right now. What can small, mid-sized businesses, or even businesses of all sizes, what should they be looking at from blockchain, and why is there such great power and hope behind it?
Yeah, so blockchain, when I first heard about blockchain, I heard about the cryptocurrency aspect of it.
Yeah.
And the only part I heard about that, obviously I didn't know anything at the time, I just heard that, oh, you can buy this currency. And for me, financial didn't attract me at the time. But I attended a workshop at Launch Academy from one of the companies that were there, and I was fascinated with technology. So I started reading, and the more I read, and the more I kind of learned that I need to learn more. Blockchain is one of these technologies that are foundational. What it means is that it has the impact on everything we do. Just like how the internet, so it's not just an emerging technology. You can compare it with AI and let's say VR, AR, and the other emerging technologies. But the difference is blockchain is so foundational, it's going to be embedded in all of these technologies. So it's harder to learn on the scale of, let's say, spectrum of easier to learn, harder. Blockchain is probably one of the hardest to learn and the hardest to understand and the hardest to explain the impact, because it's so if you had the internet and in 1995 and said, the internet is going to change, we're going to have Uber, people are going to be taxi drivers and people you are crazy. They can't understand what you're talking about. But it's kind of like that. At the time they had email, and email was the biggest thing. Now we have cryptocurrency. That's kind of the email of the blockchain.
Yep.
So it's going to have such a massive effect, and that's why everybody needs to be involved, because the earlier you're involved, the more likely you're going to play a bigger role as it grows.
Yeah.
So it is so foundational, and so I'm on a mission, honestly, to tell people about it and to have people be involved. And I ran, with the help of Launch Academy, ran a lot of free sessions actually every month for. I stopped, I think, on July, but for a year and a half. Over a year and a half, ran every month a session, intro to blockchain, just telling people about blockchain for everyone to be involved. And I do believe blockchain is for everyone, just like the internet.
Yes.
So it's now highly technical, but it's going to be for everyone, just like the internet. So I think it's foundational, it's very important, get involved. And I have my the first chapter of my book about it, free, available to download for people, just to get them involved, to understand where it came from, how it works, what the impact is. So I think it's extremely important, especially for people who are interested in a space that is important like you guys, which is cybersecurity. I think a lot of people, it's kind of the thing that we don't pay attention to until something is broken.
Sure.
It's kind of like not noticing electricity until it's cut off. So the same thing happens with cybersecurity, and blockchain is going to play a big role, because there are more permissions that you have to do. Everything is tracked. So we're moving to that space. Everything is cryptographically protected. So it's cybersecurity is embedded. It's not like it is cybersecurity, obviously, but it gives credence and importance to that.
Absolutely.
So I think it's very important for people to start knowing about it and actually connecting with experts like you, who can actually highlight this importance of cybersecurity element.
Hussein, that I can honestly say that was the most awesome,
was
power-packed episode
Story-filled.
we have had. Like, I think we could honestly
Thank you,
chat
I
for
appreciate
2
that.
hours.
We
on
need
it.
to do a sequel.
Yeah,
That's what
you're gonna. Yeah.
for
I'm happy
Future guest,
anytime. I love
recurring
talking
guest.
with you. I have to say that you guys are good. Like I'm flowing. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. We always enjoy our conversations. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Likewise.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you again so much for.
Oh, my
taking time.
pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hussein delivers. What a great episode that was.
That was fantastic, and he inspired me. I think next time on the show, I think I'm just going to have my own hat and T-shirt and shorts on, be a little more casual. But boy, he's just such a wealth of knowledge, and he covers so many different areas. Like you could talk to him about a million different topics. But
Blockchain,
startups. For me, the blockchain I thought was a really interesting piece there, and how he was saying that it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Like every single organization is going to be needing to adopt blockchain in some shape or form. So it's going to be really interesting seeing that evolve. And I thought that was really interesting how he said, you're seeing that at the enterprise level, and it'll only be a matter of time before the blockchain is more widely used with small and mid-sized businesses.
Yeah, that's a huge point. Yeah, he's such an advocate for blockchain. I think he is so passionate and has a big place in his heart for startups as well.
Yes.
And the thing that seems to be coming out in his messaging is that the resources are there, and the people that want to mentor startup entrepreneurs are there as well, and he wants to facilitate that. So I can't wait to see what the near future has in store for Mr. Hallak.
Absolutely, he's Mr. Positive Energy. You just have to be radiant around him. So that was wonderful to have him.
Yeah, very cool guy. Thanks for watching. You can check out our other podcasts on conversationsthatmatter.tv, and we will see you next Monday.